Contracts and forms are a critical part of doing real estate business. And today we're going to talk about some of the forms that we use, what are their purposes, and discuss the ins and outs and how they can affect you as a buyer or a seller. Stay tuned to this episode of The Den.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show that explores trending topics in real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. We're a small team of professionals with over $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 successful transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. And today we're going to be talking about the infamous real estate contract forms that we use. And some people love them, some people hate them. We've got differing opinions. Actually, I've been grateful over the years. I haven't had to lawyer up because we've paid some great attorneys over the years to develop these forms. They're called NMAR, New Mexico Association of Realtor forms. And then, of course, we have Colorado forms that Aspen uses on the regular. We actually operate with the Lyons Group out of 2 states. So we're going to get different perspectives today because New Mexico forms are lengthy, they're wordy, they're tricky sometimes, but they're meant to protect all parties involved, including realtors. So let's kick it off. Paul, you are just a glutton for punishment. I tell you what, I mean, you serve in a lot of capacities.
Yeah.
But one of the big things that you do is you serve on the Forms Committee on the state level. Now, let me tell our viewers, our audience, that this committee, people go there and they come back out and they don't look the same. You know how you see like presidents when they start their term.
They lose their hair.
It's true. It's already happening.
Yeah,
So,
I just needed to roll out of bed and get to work. So.
yeah. And these forms have been developed for decades. And we literally have spent, as an association, millions of dollars developing them for your protection as a buyer or seller, but also for the protection of the realtor that's involved with the transaction. But Paul, why don't you kick us off here? Tell us a little bit about your experience on the Forms Committee, some of the things that you think about our forms and how you see them helping the everyday buyer and seller.
Thank you, Ben, for that very long and rambling introduction and question. I got on the Forms Committee because I'm the district vice president for the San Juan County Board of Realtors for the Northwest region in New Mexico. So being on that committee, they kind of push people out to be the liaisons for other committees. So I got tagged to be the liaison for the Forms Committee. So I didn't actually volunteer for it. I was volun-told for it. And
You must have missed a meeting.
I think I did. But I was told they wanted an adult in the room. Because once you get onto the Forms Committee, those people are so
passionate
and married to these forms.
Thank you for saving him there.
Yeah, if you yeah,
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. They are adamant that these are the correct ways to do things, the only way to do things. And that is one of the main benefits that we give to our members. So these forms, we're always revisiting them, revising them, making sure that we stay current with legislation that's come out, with litigation that's come out to make sure that we're protecting our members. What I have found is a lot of times we'll try to protect the form instead of protect the member.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of changing the structure of the form or what the form is supposed to do. So I started adding this year, be like, what is the intent of this form?
Yeah.
Does this do what we want it to do? And Aspen, you had said earlier, there's a lot of forms that are confusing. People use them wrong. People don't exactly know how to use them. So what I've been doing is, this is very confusing. Let's fix this. Let's give a little explanation. We may cut out a couple of pages of this form because we don't need it. We're also looking at changing how we use the forms, because right now we have a forms library, which is like thousands of pages of PDFs that we pull in and kind of make our presentation to our customer a lot longer. What we're hoping to do, hopefully this works, if I have anything to say about it, it will be menu-based. So we'll just start putting in property specific things, and it'll pull in the appropriate portions of our forms into it. So be one long tailored form. That's kind of I know we've been talking about it for years, but
that's where
I'm going to do it.
Well, and thank you for that. And just for our audience to know, the forms that we're talking about are like the listing agreement. So when you sit down and list your home, you're going through a document that may be, 12 pages now? I can't even remember off the top of my head. It's pretty lengthy.
Yep.
And it has all kinds of information in there that may not be applicable to your house. Maybe you have a newer home and we have information on there regarding lead-based paint. Lead-based paint is only applicable for homes built prior to 1978. So it's really a whole section of verbiage that we don't need in that contract. And that's where Paul is saying that we're going to more of a menu-based contract at some point. The other side of that is all the disclosure forms. When you go to buy a house, you get the disclosures from the seller, and what do those forms say and how are they used? Informational forms, also the purchase contract itself, and how has the purchase contract evolved over the years. This is the heart of the Forms Committee, and they're going through constantly reevaluating these forms to make them better and more user-friendly, because it is arguable, and Aspen, I want your take on this, that more is not better when it comes to contracts. Like, a lot of lawyers, they add in more verbiage and more verbiage and more verbiage. And is that necessarily better at the end of the day? You have experience on both sides of the state, Colorado and New Mexico. What's your read on it?
I think New Mexico has way too many forms. What I would like to see is and I'm not talking about, the listing agreement, the purchase agreement. We have those in Colorado too, but we just don't need 30 forms on a single contract. It's confusing for people. Most of it's not even relevant for them. I would like to, and then we're having them sign these things to show that they read it, but also they're probably not reading the estimated property tax levy form, so it's just one of those things where just because they sign it, I think it almost creates more of liability. If we're sending them a 80 to 112 page document, even if we break it up, that's still so much legal jargon that they're getting also added on with the lending, versus in Colorado, it's like a running joke. I always feel like I'm forgetting something, because in Colorado, we have, the listing agreement, the purchase agreement. We have a 2-page form that we have to present to buyers whenever we start having a conversation with them. Now we have the buyer broker agreement. But aside from that, there's the property disclosures, source of water, lead-based paint, and I'm missing one. But the square footage disclosure. And they're 1 page, and that's it. And it's really just for information for the buyer to have.
So for the purchase contract up in Colorado, give the audience an idea of how long is that agreement?
It is very similar. So the purchase agreement, listing agreement are very similar, but we already have, it's not really a menu-based option, but if someone is, let's say, this isn't really on the listing agreement, so let's just say on the purchase agreement, if someone is paying cash, we don't need to read all about the loan and the loan availability and the loan timeline and owner carry. It's just not relevant. So we just check a box and it completely gets rid of that section, and it says section 4, loan information, whatever it's titled, omitted from contract. So they can see that something's omitted because there's going to be, a gap in the numbers, because also our contracts the lines are labeled like a legal contract would be. Yeah. So you're going to see a gap in the line. So it tells you what's been omitted. So we do already have that. But like I was saying this morning, we've had one change, I think, in 6 years. And that was just to add broker compensation information at the bottom. It has been the same contracts the entire time, which there's something to be said about consistency.
Hi, I'm Paul Berry, a partner at the Lyons Group. We're dedicated to making your real estate experience the best it can be. If you're looking to buy or sell, go to sjcbroker.com and watch our informational video series. These videos break down the process of buying and selling. While you're there, schedule a private consultation with one of our partners. We'd love to sit down and talk strategy and give you a real advantage in today's market. You deserve the best, so take those steps, and we'll see you soon. Now back to the show.
Yeah, because the argument can be that, when we're constantly changing these contracts, not only is it confusing to the consumer, to the client, whether you're buying or selling, if you do it on a regular basis, which not a lot of people do, it can become confusing because 2 years ago, the forms were different than they are today. But also for the realtors.
I have a hot take too. I think it's up to ourselves to protect ourselves. Follow the rules. Don't get too involved in the contract. Explain to them their options. Let the buyer and seller decide. And then you don't have any extra liability. You're just doing your job. Mm-hmm. I think it doesn't matter how many forms you have if you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or overstepping, or being more like an agent than a broker. Mm-hmm. I think that's where you can get into trouble.
And if somebody's going to skirt the rules, they're not going to care that there's a form to tell them not to.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things to that point, if we change something on one agreement, then all of a sudden we have 5 other or 6 other things that we have to go back and change too, so that everything is
and stuff is continuity. Missed. The signing programs are never up to date. Me and Shannon talk about this often. Mm-hmm. Like it's like as soon as one gets up to date, they change it again. And now you change one thing on a fillable, and it changes it again in another spot on a wrong contract, or on a different form that's completely wrong, or even on the same form sometimes, or it gets rid of it completely. Like it's a mess.
And there's a lot of liability there too.
I sent a video all grumpy. I was like, look, I type it in here and it's popping up here.
Yeah. So luckily being on the Forms Committee, I was like, hey, CEO, fix this now. It was over on a weekend. Yeah. Because she was filling in a name and was filling in the same box over here.
Yeah.
And the wrong name.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we've seen that many times. Yeah. Shannon, you've had a lot of experience with that over the years, because we'll send stuff out. And then people will send me a text or something and say, hey, why am I the seller? I'm the buyer here.
Or it's blank.
Or it's blanked. And I'm like, you know what? We filled that out. We sat down together and went through it. And now we send it off, thinking that it's correct. Mm-hmm. If they didn't check, they sign it and send it back, who knows? There's a liability there. Now, you started way back with me.
Again, calling you old again.
I started way back before you.
You did, so I threw myself under the bus on that. Way back with me and a little bit before me. Our contracts have evolved so much, Shannon. What is your take on the way we used to do business and how short those contracts were? Because back when I first started, it was about 6 pages. Now that's evolved to quite a bit more.
You know what this means? They're the problem.
That's right.
Why is this long?
Yeah.
No, you know what? Should we go back to the more simple forms? I mean, give me your thoughts on the contracts that we are using
in some ways
today.
It would be nice. It would be nice to get rid of a lot of I really like the idea of having a customized purchase agreement, because one of the problems is you get into a purchase agreement with your customer and you're saying, this doesn't apply, this doesn't apply, this doesn't apply to you, this doesn't apply to you. And that just seems messy to me. I don't like that. So I like them being a little bit shorter. But on the other side, I have seen over the years the problems that arise and why they keep putting things in them. Every time they redo forms, it is to fix a problem that we've had. So now they are addressing an issue that's come up that they've recognized as liability to either a buyer, seller, or a broker. And they've decided that they're going to fix it with this new change. So it is a double-edged sword. It would be nice to bring it back down to a shorter version. But also everything's there for a reason. Mm-hmm. Every single thing is there for a reason. So I'd like to see them a little bit shorter. I mean, when you're talking about a 20-page agreement between a buyer and seller, that's a lot. And a lot of it sometimes doesn't even pertain to either of them.
I don't mind the purchase agreement. I don't mind the listing agreement being a little bit longer. But why do we need 8 to 12 plus forms that we're giving people to?
The information forms.
Forms. Yeah. If we should be able to give people a website list of all of them, which I know we can, but it's not easy. If you say, here's all the forms, if you'd like to go through anything, go ahead.
We have done that.
But then I think it's like, but then you're not giving it to them. It's like, at some point you are buying the most expensive purchase you're ever going to buy in your house. You should probably do a little bit of your own research.
There has to be some personal responsibility for learning it might be important to you.
Yeah. And it's maybe one thing if we can say, you have a septic, you're going to want to read these, read these forms. Yeah. But I'm like,
or water disclosures or something like that.
Like something that's actually going to affect their every single day. Mm-hmm. We'll send over the covenants, of course, that kind of stuff. But I'm like, what are we?
Well, one of the conversations that we've started this year is we have redundancies in a lot of these forms. Like broker duties is at the beginning of a lot of our forms. Anything that's an agreement between us and our customer, there's broker duties at the front of it. We should have that just once throughout the contract that you have to sign that. But then you send over you have your buyer broker agreement has it, purchase agreement has it. We've already disclosed this stuff. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get rid of that. And then when we're going into a contract, we go, the intent of this document right here is to tell them this. We already tell them this over here. Let's get rid of this one or get rid of it over here and make it an addendum or a information sheet.
That's one thing the Colorado forms don't have is the broker duties at the front. Mm. They don't have that.
Yeah, and the redundancy component, like you're saying, just saying the same thing over and over and over again is, it's maddening sometimes.
When you get into it, and it's like the tax code. You're like, if you have this one here, then go see this form here. Yeah. And it throws you all over the place. And it's like, we really need to simplify this because if we can't get it, and then that's always the thing, we got to go to the lowest common denominator, which is usually a new broker because they just know the ideology of real estate. But we've got to get it down to them so that there's some instructions right there for them, give them some more education. So we're trying to condense forms and enhance education.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion, Mr. Forms. Let's go back to the old property disclosures. You had so much information on there, like about the house, like actual pertinent information. So we have almost the exact same one in Colorado. It's the old one, like that we used to have. The adverse materials that we have now is very confusing because people don't know what to put. And also sometimes it's like, what kind of shingles do I have on my roof? What kind of, how big is my, hot water heater? You want that information to be able to easily see. And I think it's something that most buyers expect if they've bought a house, before the last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, and for our audience to understand, what we're talking about is specifically a property disclosure form where when you sit down with a seller and you sign a listing contract, they want to sell their home. You also hand them a disclosure form and say, hey, this disclosure form you fill out and you let any potential buyer know what's wrong with your property or what may be wrong or what things have happened. And what you're saying, Aspen, is the forms we used to be very detailed. You had to fill them out. In fact, when we saw blank forms, it was just a huge red flag because that meant that the seller just refused to fill them out or didn't know anything about the property. Nowadays, our forms say, do you know of anything wrong? No. Mm-hmm. How about anything wrong with this? No. And so primarily now those forms are blank. So they're not really
we went
true
from property disclosures, which was disclosing not just negative things, but also just things you would want to know about the house, to now adverse materials. But a lot of it's kind of confusing for people. And some of them say, has there ever been an issue? Is there an issue currently? And people are like, it's just overwhelming for people.
Well, the previous form used to force our hand on, people would say, well, do I need to say something about that? And I would always say my pat answer would be like, if you're questioning it, say it. If you are concerned about it, say it. If you would want to know this as a buyer, say it. You need to disclose it. And that was it pressed that conversation. So you'd have to have that conversation. Now,
also when dates were installed.
Yeah. So you know when your hot water heater was installed or the roof was replaced or anything like that.
Well, that's why I tried to, when I was president a couple of years ago, to try to get that utility form.
I love that form.
I don't know how many people are using it, but it gives you a little bit. You can hand it to the buyer and say, when you buy, call these people and set up your utilities.
Yeah.
It's like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Very helpful form.
Yeah, it is a good form because that's the kind of information that was on the old property disclosure forms that people want. Who do I call to switch over my ditch?
Yeah.
It's just stuff that's kind of getting missed.
Yeah.
I would say that is probably, aside from like the quantity of forms that we have that we give to people it's probably too many to be giving to people. The property disclosure is the only form I actually have rub with in New Mexico.
On top of that, nowadays, it's less and less prevalent that we sit down with our clients and go through these forms. So much of it is done over e-signature programs. So we'll get it together. We'll send them a synopsis maybe, and then charge them or task them with reading through it and, e-signing it. So we're not there to answer the questions. And so Shannon, we've been through the signing it on the hood of a car and faxing it to now where you rarely sit down with a client and actually go through every line item detail. I mean,
I think Paul and I do that. Screen share. You can definitely do that.
Yeah.
You should be doing that, Ben.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying I don't, but
some people.
Other people outside this room.
Yeah. So you guys actually sit down and screen share.
Me and Paul looked at each other instantly because, I screen share.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. And what we do, which I think is really effective, we have multiple conversations. We send a full synopsis of like, here's the main points of what you're signing.
I do that too.
You need to read through this as well and make sure you understand, because like you said before, you are making one of the biggest transactions in your life. You have some responsibility to do a little bit of the reading and checking.
I've just been on the other side of it too, where it was right on the form. And I totally, this was before I got licensed, obviously. It was on the form and I probably should have seen it, but I was selling my first house. I had no idea what I was looking at. And also I had bought the house internally, from family. So I didn't even go through the full buying process. So maybe someone should have assumed that I would know this. I didn't. And then it wasn't a huge deal, but they ended up where the buyers kept our new washer and dryer. And we were in a position where we could not afford another washer and dryer. If someone had gone through the contract with us, we would have objected to that specifically. Everything else was, fine. But again, should I have seen it? Probably. But, when you're 20, I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Click, 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 click.
Basically. And we read through it, but it was we didn't understand any of the words. And I know they have the thing at the bottom, but it was overwhelming. So I do think for most people, you need to go over everything.
Well, and sometimes I know a lot of realtors, when they go through these consultations with people, they're trying to almost train them to be realtors, and they'll explain every single step. And our forms are almost geared towards that. You need to know what FERPTA is. You need to know why their lead-based paint disclosures are being made, all that kind of stuff. So I don't necessarily like that, but the consultation that you go through, you got to hit the high points. And one of the things that I like about where we're trying to go at the state level is, what's the one thing people want from their form once they're under contract? A timeline, right? So what we're looking at doing is, once you have all the dates in there and everything's signed, it pops out a calendar for you. And
that's nice.
A critical dates form.
Yeah, critical dates, and it attached to.
I don't want to brag. We do have that in Colorado.
Yeah. Right. But
the system that they're looking at, though, is based off. I sent them all my stuff of what we do. So it's kind of based on that. But I'm hoping the New Mexico one's even better, because honestly, the Colorado one sounds really good, but it's a little clunky. The system's clunky.
When I asked you, what would you rate it 1 to 10? You said a 7. I said, okay, let's look at this and find something that does this and more.
Yeah.
And then the system we found, right now, I haven't found anything that it doesn't do. But I like the Colorado system. It's one long thing, and then you just pull things out.
Yeah.
So this one here, we're looking at, we enter info, and it sucks stuff in. So there's a lot of front end stuff that we've got to do to make it user friendly. And then for the end user, for the regular realtors, it'll be like a survey platform. They just fill it out. It does the work.
Yeah.
Get it done. That'd be
so wonderful.
The experience. And that's kind of our thing, is the member experience using these forms.
And the customer, that translates to the customer experience.
Because if it's wrong and we're putting in stuff and it's filling it in the wrong spot, and then we have to go in and redline it and have people initial it, it just makes us look bad too. Yeah. It's bad for them. It's bad for us. Yeah. We know that we have to do it, and we redline it and we initial it, but it would be much easier if we didn't have to do that and look a lot better.
And what we want to have is, when we go to the title company, they come in with that big old pile of papers that they got to sign. We go, at least we didn't do that to you.
Yeah.
But right now we're doing that. It was we had as much for us as you do for them.
Yeah, and I think we've all compensated. I mean, using the forms that we have. I mean, we create a critical dates synopsis that for the customer. So they have, as soon as they sign the contract, before they sign it, after they sign it, we send it to them. But it's just things like for costs associated with the sale. And we have an estimated closing cost sheet, and you have to manually add. So, I mean, I pull out my calculator on my phone and I'm adding stuff up. That's why are we doing that? That's one of those things that should auto populate. And we put the numbers in and it carries it right to the bottom, because we've had several instances where I got fat thumbs and, I'm hitting 0 twice. And next thing you know, they're like, why are my closing costs,
because of that form being so I'm like, there's so many chances for errors on that form since you're putting in every amount yourself, you're putting it, and we're not the title company. This is not what we do. I just send a summary of estimated closing costs. That's what I do because I don't do the net out sheet because of that.
I've only really, I've that form, since we're talking about how forms are used, I've actually stopped using that form because I only control commissions. Everybody else has their own stuff. So the title company is the one that collects it all and will give you that.
So
it's also like a stay in your own lane type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want. Well, that's why I don't like being sales or insurance sales either. I'm trying to get that out of the contracts as well.
So don't you have clients though, or customers that could say, so what am I going to be paying?
Oh yeah, definitely. Every time I just give a rough estimate.
It could
this
be
percent to this
general
percent.
ballpark. This percent to this
like a
percent.
range. Yeah.
Okay. So you'll say a specific range from a percentage to a percentage.
Yeah, because
with actual numbers too. And if they know what their loan amount is, I'll take that off for them,
Yeah, because if you fill that out and then they say, well, where's this number? I wanted this number. You go, I have no control over that number at all.
The title company updated and we didn't know. And it's $25 difference.
Or they were 2 years behind on their taxes. So that adjusted here.
Yeah.
And then you did concessions and repairs. So this number is different.
Sure. And what we do is we update that as we go through, but we tell them right up front, we don't do property taxes and things like these are the things that we know. And we always go high on our estimates.
I do estimate high as well.
So it's always to their benefit. And if there's ever, whenever there's a question, which is pretty rare, but when there's a question, we can point back and say, look, we actually told you a little bit higher than what it was. We didn't realize that you were a year behind on your property taxes, but remember we said we don't calculate those in, or your payoffs, because people say, oh, I only owe $150 on it or whatever.
I asked them to actually send me a picture of their statement.
Yeah.
If I'm going to add in your loan amount, send me a picture.
I don't ever even add in the payoff itself. So
I do for some people, but and then we look at the difference too. I mean, kind of pivoting here between residential and commercial. We're still doing it very old school on the commercial side, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And you know what? Commercial is higher dollars, more lawyers involved typically. And I knock on wood.
More sophisticated clients typically.
I have not that are familiar with the process. Nope. Have the money and capacity to sue if they needed to. And knock on wood, I haven't had an issue with the residential or commercial. And look how different they are.
I found a lot of commercial clients are just kind of like they're just a little more old school in their thought in the sense okay, we're just kind of moving along.
They're taking a risk and they know it's a risk.
Moving along in good faith. That's what we're doing. And then things work out or they don't. But I agree with you. I think it's totally two totally different ball games. But maybe we can learn from commercial a little bit.
I've heard they're about to update the commercial forms.
It's going to throw people into a tizzy. So, well, we're winding down and we've just got a few minutes left here, but wonderful conversation on the forms. I know that forms and contracts can be tricky for the everyday user. If you're looking to buy or sell, you certainly want professional guidance to get you through that. And here at the Lyons Group, we're happy to walk you through that process. You get a tailored and boutique service when you're looking to buy or sell your property. So whether you're in residential or the commercial space, go to sjcbroker.com and schedule a private consultation with any one of us here at the Lyons Group. We'd love to sit down with you and give you an advantage in today's market. So thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed and check the show notes below for direct links to our buyer and seller video series. The buyer and seller video series can give you an inside track on taking the right steps in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group or to schedule a consultation, go to sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the Den.